So the Xbox Series S, part of the 9th generation, younger brother to the Xbox Series X, and launching alongside the PlayStation 5 for this current generation. At the time, people said that's a terrible idea, but I was on the other side of the fence. I said, you know what can go wrong? You got a cheaper version of the Xbox, that performs and can play current gen titles. Was I right? Well, no, I wasn't. In this video, I'm going to tell you why I think the Xbox Series S is killing Microsoft. So to start this video off, we have to understand the difference between the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. Now, first we'll start the prices. $499, $299, basically $500 and $300, okay? So what makes them different? The Xbox Series X has 1 terabyte. The Xbox Series S offers 512 to 1 terabyte. Okay, that's the storage. Both can do 120 FPS, which at the time, let's not forget, 120 FPS gaming wasn't as mainstream as it is today. 3.5 to 4 years ago, a lot of people didn't even know what they were missing until they played 120 FPS. Then they were like, whoa, like a light switch came on night and day, especially in first-person shooters. Processor, it triples the Xbox Series S. Xbox Series X, 4K, 1440, which was still respectable. 1440p is respectable. No Blu-ray drive on the Xbox Series S, but the Xbox Series X has it. So everything you do with the S has to be digital, okay? And video range up to 4K high dynamic, capable of 8K up to high dynamic range. Okay, now that's one of those wordplay things they do. I never really tried to push my Xbox Series S up to 4K or 8K. And let me say this. So I have an Xbox Series X. My wife has an Xbox Series S, and I got my son an Xbox Series S. So in my household, I have one X for me and 2 S's for my family members. So I'm not just talking out of my ass here. I actually spent money and bought these things. So at the time of launch, I'm like, that's a good idea. $200 price difference, and I'm still getting entry level into the 9th generation. I'm getting 120 FPS, because that's all really cared about. If you play FPS games, usually you don't play them at 4K. You generally play them at, some even say 1080 at 120 FPS. And if you got a supercomputer, you can run it like, up to 300 frames, 244, whatever. But on a console, 120 is respectable. And that's what the Xbox Series S offered on an entry level at $200 cheaper. Sounds attractive, right? Let's keep going. So immediately, one of the setbacks though is no disk drive. So all your games with the Xbox Series S have to be digital. So some games, like Call of Duty, I'm looking at you, 300 gigabytes for a game. 300 plus. If you download the whole Call of Duty system that they make you download, you're looking at 300. So that's, if you have a 512, which launched with the Xbox Series S, that's over half your space. Okay, so that's not really a big selling point. At least Xbox Series X, and don't get me wrong, you can hook a hard drive to it, the Xbox Series S. However, unless you buy their hard drive, you have to shift games back and forth if you install a big game like that. And you can, and I get the X is the same way, but at least I have a formatted disc, physical copy that I can put in there and, take up a good part of the downloading phase and just put the game on there just straight to without using up all my bandwidth. Plus, I'm old school. I still got GameFly, so I get about three to four games in my library that I can fluctuate between. And if I have the Series S, none of that's possible, and none of that even matters because it can't accept a hard disk. And a lot of people still like physical copies. But moving on from all that, if we're going to be fair, okay, you did pay $200. If you got an S, you did pay $200 less. So why is this thing hurting Microsoft? Not so much us, but Microsoft. Well, for one, the parody clause, okay? So what I mean by that is when I say, if I get a game, we'll just take Baldur's Gate, for example, Baldur's Gate 3. Now, it launched on the PlayStation, it launched on the PC, but for some reason in September of last year, but for some reason we couldn't do it with the Xbox. And why was that? We didn't get the game on Xbox until December of that year. And the reason being is because of the Xbox Series S. It couldn't. They can't. The parity clause says they can't scale down and give you a lesser version. I mean, you're gonna get a lesser version. That's just the truth. But they can't intentionally bring it down to where all the features aren't there that's in the Xbox Series X version. Okay, the X version, I mean. So they have to scale it down and limit themselves to what they can do and try to bring the Xbox Series S up to par. Now, if we looked at the specs earlier, the teraflops are 3 times the size in the Series X and 4K resolution. And the only thing they have on par really is the FPS. But in games like Baldur's Gate and stuff like that, yeah, you want a decent FPS, but 120 really doesn't matter with games like that, like Elden Ring, stuff like that. So you're getting, let's say you have state-of-the-art hardware and equipment you're using, like 4K resolution monitors, gaming monitors, OLED monitors. None of that really matters when you got a Series S that's only pushing out 1080p, you know, or 1440. Okay, you're not maximizing. So the games have to be toned down so you can get a good experience on the S as you would with the X. And that's hurting the series. That's hurting the Xbox Series. I mean, when I think of things like that, I say, well, if I'm bottlenecking what games can come out and I'm getting late delays because of the Series S, that's hurting. But moving on to the future, you look at games like GTA 6. Are you really going to play your GTA 6, the game that, you know, the world's waiting on an Xbox Series S? I mean, if that's what you got, that's what you got, that's what you got. But most people aren't going to want to sacrifice. And so PlayStation's fine. And let's look at the launch is how they did it, okay? PlayStation 5 came out with 2 versions as well, but they were a lot smarter about it. They came out with a non-digital version and a digital version. So one had a disk drive and one didn't. That's the difference. Inside the machine, specs were the same. It was the same machine, just one had a drive and one didn't. That's debatable. I feel like you should always get a drive. Why not get that extra bit? But if you wanted to cut $100 with an entry level, it's still okay because you have a decent sized hard drive and you're not losing any specs. Not with the processing power, the graphical capabilities, or anything. 4K, 4K, 8K, 8K. You're getting the same deal. But with the Xbox Series S, not only are you losing your disk drive, but you're losing, you know, performance. And at $200 less, I mean, I'm starting to ask now. Remember when I said it at the beginning, I felt like it was worth it? Not so much anymore. You kind of get what you pay for. Moving on with the Xbox Series, that's another problem they have is, you know, the whole thing that they got, I mean, the Xbox Game Pass catalog. Now, on my Xbox Series S, I have a ton of games stored on my drive with the Xbox Game Pass games. The drive's so small on the S because I have to play my Xbox new next-gen games, current-gen games, Generation 9, and I have to have room for my backwards compatibility catalog. With the limited space and not being able to use a disk drive, everything has to be on there. And I get the same thing with the X, but it seems to me like it's limiting my space. Because remember, it launched with 512. And I have this upgraded version, and that's another thing. Why would you upgrade the Series S? I mean, you went from 512 to 1 terabyte. I feel like, you know, if you're going to put some upgrades, put them somewhere else. So I just feel like the Xbox Series S, while it's decent for what it does a little bit of this. Kind of half-ass does this. Does a little bit of this, but it doesn't do any. It's kind of like Xbox One X 2.0. I mean, it's kind of knocking on the door of the 9th gen, but it wasn't really ready to be launched alongside the other systems. So I mean, at first it started off okay as a good concept, but now, and it's still, even with the new Xbox they're going to launch, which don't get me started on that. I think that's a disaster in itself because, you know, it's just a different look and you get a different controller. I mean, at the end of the day, the new Xbox Series X that they're going to launch, whatever code name they're calling it, it's going to be the exact same console, same power. I think it's going to have a bigger hard drive and they're taking away the drive. So it's going to be digital just like the Series S. I'm not a fan. I want my drive. And I feel like if I'm just getting a different look and a fancy controller, if I already got a Xbox Series X like I have, why in the world would I buy that? I don't know. I don't understand. But that's a debate for another time. But going back to the S, with the future of Xbox, they had a great showing this year at their game show. And a lot of good games look like they were coming out. It's going to have some processing power involved. Blade. You got the new Gears of War coming out. GTA 6. I mean, you're gonna want to play those. You want to see everything. You're gonna want to play those games in true 4K. Okay, you're not gonna. And then I don't know how big those games are gonna be, but you have to have a 9th generation console. A lot of people are gonna just play them on PC and just cut out the console altogether. But if you have a console, PlayStation owners, you're okay. Xbox Series X owners, I think you're okay, unless you get a late release because of the Xbox Series S. So where's that leave the S? Do we just forget about it? Put it in the closet full of bad ideas? I don't know, but I just feel like they need to do something with this Series S and either just discontinue it or just, it just plays what it plays. And if you get a crappy version, you get a crappy version. But developers, big time developers, don't have time to spoon feed the S when other consoles we're gonna make a lot of money on PC, PlayStation, and if we get around to the Series X, because it has time to wait for the S. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like a good idea at the time, and I get it, but I just feel like they need to just do something with it. Maybe discontinue maybe that's a big ask. Maybe that's might piss a lot of people off. I mean, I got 2 of them, so, and even with 2 of them, I still feel like I'd much rather see a final quality product on par with the PlayStation 5 and the PC, as opposed to be limited with the Xbox Series S. So that's gonna do it for me. But let me know in the comments, guys, if you got a Series S like me. Do you love it? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Series S for what it is, but I just feel like with the future coming of gaming and games being, requiring and demanding and taxing higher performance out of a console, the S just isn't gonna cut it. I mean, that's my opinion, but let me know how you feel. You got an S, you want to rock with it. If you're like me and you just say the S was fun, but it's time to move on to the Xbox Series X, or just get out the Xbox game altogether. I don't know. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. And as always, take care of yourself, protect your inner peace. God bless, and we'll catch you on the next one.